Al Jazeera has obtained the largest leak of documents in British political history.
Oh my God, this is unbelievable. It is absolutely shocking.
Hundreds of thousands of internal communications expose how operatives secretly take control of Britain's Labour Party.
The Labour Party is a criminal conspiracy against its members.
Free speech was shut down.
They tell the inside story of how Sir Keir Starmer, who could be Britain's next Prime Minister, leads a lawless party.
Democracy is dead in the Labour Party.
Confidential documents expose tactics to discredit and expel rivals in the party.
People are actually quite dangerous who are in with the Labour Party.
They were playing with people's lives here.
They reveal how Starmer's predecessor was undermined by a smear campaign from within.
It disabled him as a politician and as a potential Prime Minister.
Really nice to see you here. Goodbye.
How British democracy, known as the Mother of Parliaments, is being undermined by spying and dirty tricks.
No one would expect that a political party would associate themselves with the whole-scale hacking of the press.
It looks like somebody is constantly monitoring me, where I'm going and where my car is parked and where my children is going.
It just stinks to high heaven what they're doing in the background.
We speak to people whose voices have been silenced, including those who support Palestinian rights.
It's very painful. As Palestinians, there was no room for us to enter this debate, and that's how it was designed to be.
And the files reveal how a hierarchy of racism exists under Starmer's leadership.
I face more racism in the Labour Party than I have in the rest of my life combined.
The Starmer leadership is not interested in democracy, it's interested in power and control. In order to maintain that control, it has to get rid of its activists. Democracy, principle, everything goes out of the window. The only thing they want is control. They are ruthless.
August 14th, 2021. For the first time in UK history, the expulsion of a renowned director from the Labour Party makes the news. The story sounds a bit strange. The Palme d'Or winning director announces that the Labour Party has decided to expel him due to his protests against political purges within the party. Ken Loach tweets, "We are many, they are few. Unite." This is Oxford, a city in the southern part of England with a mild climate and frequent rains, the city of dreaming spires. At the heart of Oxford lies a university of the same name, the oldest university in the world, boasting a collection of 80 Nobel laureates. In 1957, a few months after completing his service in the Royal Navy, Ken Loach enters Oxford. Coming from a working-class family in a small town near Birmingham, he brings with him all of his dreams. Ken Loach is likely to become a lawyer. He studies law at Oxford. The eldest son in the Loach family chooses law as a path to social justice. But after graduating, his path shifts towards cinema. He first enters the world of theatre, then transitions into television.
Tell me what it was. It was something.
Ken Loach, welcome to This Cultural Life.
It's a great pleasure to come, and good to see you.
You
again.
too. You were born in 1936. You grew up in the Midlands. Tell me about your family. What did your parents do?
My father was electrical engineer. He took his apprenticeship in the mines. The whole family, my father's family, were miners from the Warwickshire coalfields, and he worked at Alfred Herbert's machine tool factory all his life, 40-odd years.
Skilled worker then?
Yes, a skilled worker, electrician. And he had a work ethic that was formidable. He worked 7 days a week, and my mother had been a hairdresser, but like women of that time, it was a matter of pride for my father that she should not have to work. But lovely woman, very kind.
What sort of cultural upbringing did you have at home?
Well, it was a very normal, I guess, suburban house, semi-detached in Nuneaton.
Cinemas nearby?
There were cinemas, but we didn't go as a family. I was never very interested in the cinema. I was more interested in theatre.
Was it just the films didn't appeal, the sort of thing that was being shown?
It just didn't attract me. I cared passionately about the theatre from having been in the school play The Tempest at age 11 as a nymph or something, and I don't know, I just got the bug. And there was a rep company that came to Nuneaton 3 days a week this is the late 40s, early 50s. And it became what I was obsessed by.
In 1967, Ken Loach's first feature film, Poor Cow, is released in UK cinemas. The theaters are packed. The reception is outstanding. Ken Loach is now a lawyer-director. In 1969, he directs Kes, which many consider one of the greatest British films ever made. The British Film Institute ranks Kes 7th among the top 10 British films. The Guardian includes it in the list of 1,000 films to see before you die. The film portrays the grim and bleak lives of working-class people in the industrial north of England. Kes is essentially a protest against the spirit of oppression in society, particularly within the British education system.
Perhaps it's a secret shared only with Kes.
Britain for Loach is not sacred. He has no admiration for Elizabeth and her royal family, nor for the inhumane policies of Churchill, Tony Blair or Margaret Thatcher. Ken Loach deeply understands the reality of Britain's colonial system and has spent years making films that confront this crumbling order. In 1990, his political left-leaning film Hidden Agenda, which deals with the events in Northern Ireland, causes a stir. The English don't like it, but at Cannes, the film shines, winning the jury prize.
The men that did the shooting. Our job's done.
Are you willing to settle for that?
The truth has been buried.
I want that tape.
What tape?
The tape they found on Sullivan's body.
There was no tapes.
The investigation has been obstructed.
Consequently, I was put under close surveillance. Mail was opened, phones were tapped.
But the real crime is the cover-up.
Get down! Get down! Saying to you, when you came to make Hidden Agenda about the north of Ireland, did you have an attitude to the north before you made the movie?
Yeah, because you can't be in England and not be innocent of what the British have been doing to the Irish for a few hundred years. So you start from the point of view that the
800, but 800. I don't want to remind you. Yeah.
Well, a few hundred,
yeah.
Lots.
Yeah.
You have to know that the violence has been done by the British to the Irish. So I mean, that's an attitude.
But you did you were accused of giving the IRA a kind of a rosy glow and a slightly romantic.
The IRA aren't in the picture at all. It's not about the IRA. It's about the dirty tricks of the British, the dirty war the British have been fighting. And the corrupting effects that's had on British politics as a whole.
Were you surprised at you got runner-up at 1990 at the Cannes?
We got the Critics' Prize.
Critics' Prize. Were you surprised at the reaction of the British press? Some of them walked out and were very righteous about it.
Yeah. Sorry, special jury prize. It's all the same. Well, no, we weren't surprised because you're used to the right-wing hacks of the British press, and if you deal with Ireland in any way except say that it's about suppressing terrorism, then of course they treat you as in this way.
You like stirring it up all the same, don't you, Ken?
Yeah. Well, I think some things need to be stirred up. You know, if you've got a war going on in what they call the United Kingdom, and it's a war the British keep quiet about, it's time it was stirred up.
In The Irish Route, Loach harshly condemns the warmongering policies of the US and UK concerning Iraq. The oppression of the working class and poor by the British government has always been painful for him. In his documentary The Spirit of 45, he tackles systemic corruption against vulnerable communities. In the film, he accuses the UK of being ruled by capitalism, serving only the wealthy elite. Ken Loach says poverty in England is never captured on camera. The suffering of the working class is never an interesting subject for the ruling powers.
People were greedy for a lot of things those days.
Ken Loach's films resemble social documentaries that strive to depict the pain and struggles of society's lower classes with tangible, realistic detail. In Loach's films, England looks nothing like the glamorous, romantic England shown in most British cinema.
An era when poverty was rife, when illness was rife.
The Labour government not only housed people, they housed them well.
September 4th, 1970. Presidential elections in Chile come to an end. The result is so unbelievable that Richard Nixon, President of the United States, summons the US ambassador in Chile. Nixon slams the table and yells, "That son of a bitch! That son of a bitch, Mr. Ambassador!" The victory of Salvador Allende, close friend of Ernesto Che Guevara, shocks America so deeply that the CIA immediately holds an emergency meeting. They decide to push Chile to the brink of economic collapse. As they put it, make the Chilean economy scream. September 11, 1973. Chilean traitor General Augusto Pinochet, with American support, stages a military coup. Pinochet's forces, armed with US weapons, bomb La Moneda Palace, while Salvador Allende stands alone inside, the Chilean flag wrapped around his body. September 11, 2002, the first anniversary of the Twin Towers attacks. 11 filmmakers are invited to create documentaries about the 9/11 terrorist attack on the World Trade Center. Ken Loach is one of them, but things don't go the way the Americans had hoped. Instead of making a film about September 11th, 2001, Loach makes a film about September 11th, 1973. In a letter addressed to the mothers of the 9/11 victims, Ken Loach writes, 30,000 people were killed in Chile, 3,000 because Mr. Nixon, your president, said he'd make Chile's economy scream, because your Secretary of State, Mr. Kissinger, said why should we stand by and let a country go communist.
In 1970, there was an election. I was 18, and I voted for the first time. We had this beautiful dream to build a society in which our people could share the product of their work.
Ken Loach describes the 9/11 attack in the US as the price paid for September 11, 1973, in Chile, with the only difference being that the number of victims in the US was just 3,000. This unexpected documentary turns the first anniversary of 9/11 into a major controversy. Some critics praise Ken Loach for his courage, while in the US, public opinion demands that he be banned from entering the country. They call on the Academy Awards to boycott him. May 17, 2006, France, Palais des Festivals of Cannes Film Festival. The 59th edition of the Cannes Film Festival begins. Cinema's greats arrive with films, most of which are made in opposition to George Bush. Cannes 2006 becomes the most anti-Bush film festival in history. Over 10 major works focus on the inhumane policies of the US in the Iraq War. The media talks about a masterpiece that marks a unique event in cinema history, The Wind That Shakes the Barley. an anti-British film made by a British director about Irish revolutionaries fighting against British occupation.
God preserve Ireland if ever your kind take control.
And one nation's fight for independence.
Ken Loach wins the Palme d'Or. Amid thunderous applause, he steps onto the stage to receive his award. After receiving the Palme, he says, "If we tell the truth about the past, we tell the truth about the present." With this, Ken Loach directly refers to Britain's colonial history and calls the UK and US imperialist nations. 2009 Edinburgh International Film Festival, Scotland. Ken Loach is set to be the festival's guest of honor. He plans to present a film about Eric Cantona, the famous British footballer. A few days before the opening, Cantona calls Loach to speak about a Palestinian footballer imprisoned in Israel. Mahmoud Sarsak, player for the Palestinian national team, has been jailed for 3 years, accused of collaborating with Islamic Jihad. He begins a hunger strike and survives 90 days without food. Cantona urges laws to help raise global awareness. After Cantona drafts a statement, Ken Loach and Noam Chomsky become the first to sign it. The statement reads, "It is time to end Israel's impunity."
French footballer and former star of Manchester United, Eric Cantona, has come out in support of a Palestinian sportsman who's been detained in Israel for the last 3 years and is now some 87 days into a hunger strike.
Media pressure against the Zionist regime intensifies. Eventually, after 92 days of hunger strike, Sarsak is released.
And one of the most severe torture methods they used against me was what I call the fridge. And this is internationally prohibited, but Israel doesn't care about international law. Basically, what they do is to put me inside a 2 meter by 2 meter fridge and then set the temperature 12 degrees below zero and shackle me, my feet and my hands. And after this session of torture, I always was taken from the fridge to the hospital. Other means which were very, very painful was what I call hanging me in a banana shape, linking my legs, my feet and my hands behind my back and bending them so that both sides look like bananas, as well as hanging us vertically for long periods. Another painful way, which I remember very clearly, was to put me in a chair, tie me to the chair, blindfold me for long periods, during which I couldn't sleep at all. Some people had this for 25 days, but in my case I had it for 18 days continuous, when I hardly had any sleep. I can't remember I slept at all during that period. And all what they were after is for me to confess something that I haven't done. After 45 days of interrogation and torture, they couldn't charge me with anything that I was accused of. The military officer responsible for the southern part of Palestine, the Gaza Strip, came to me and asked me, "Why do you play football?" I said to him, "It's my right to play football, and football is a good way of mixing people's cultures and breaking barriers between people." I also told him that this is a way of showing that we are people who live and love life and want peace. And it's a way for us to show the world that we are as any other people in the world. He told me, "Fair enough. I have a surprise for you. You are going to have the biggest football pitch on earth, 2 meter by 2 meter cell. You can draw your pitch on it and play whatever you like."
Days later, the list of festival sponsors is published, revealing that a Zionist donor is backing the festival. Ken Loach immediately releases an official statement declaring his boycott of the Edinburgh Festival. Following his lead, several actors and filmmakers join the boycott and withdraw from the festival. Ken Loach sees film festivals as platforms to defend the oppressed. He withdraws his film from the Melbourne Film Festival in protest against Israeli funding. In a letter to festival director Richard Moore, he warns that if Israeli sponsorship continues, Looking for Eric will be pulled, which he does.
Locarno 77, viva il cinema!
Benvenuti a tutti.
In 2014, Along with dozens of other directors and filmmakers, Loach signs a statement protesting the Locarno Film Festival's focus on Israeli cinema. The filmmakers criticized the Swiss foreign minister for playing a key role in the festival's decision. Part of the statement reads, "We are deeply troubled by the Locarno Festival's plan to highlight Israeli cinema during the anniversary of the 2014 Gaza massacre. This decision is an endorsement of one of the most racist regimes in the world." Gaza, June 18, 2014. The skies over Gaza are filled with Israeli fighter jets. Bombs rain down on the Gaza Strip. Women and children flee from tents and homes into the streets. The Zionists claim that 3 Jewish teenagers were kidnapped by Hamas, a claim that was never proven. A horrifying massacre begins, all based on an unproven pretext. Gaza becomes the bloodiest place on earth. The media reports that not since the Second Intifada has the world witnessed such atrocities. 3,000 civilians killed in just 3 days.
Panic. Help us, God, help us, O Arabs, he screams.
At the same time, the Sarajevo Film Festival is underway in Bosnia and Herzegovina. Ken Loach is among the attending filmmakers. In his speech at the festival, he names a Palestinian director, Abdel Salam Shehada. Ken Loach says he is one of the greatest filmmakers in the world today because he makes films in the heart of Gaza, under the bombs. Early 2016, Ken Loach decides to make a film about the state of Britain's medical and welfare system. He contacts his old friend Paul Leverty to discuss a real story of social injustice in Britain. Together, the two old men create a film called I, Daniel Blake. Based on a real case, the film tells the story of Daniel Blake, an elderly man, and Katie, a mother who lost her husband and is struggling with poverty. For this film, Ken Loach receives 2 prestigious awards in 2 consecutive years, the Palme d'Or at Cannes and the BAFTA Golden Mask.
A huge thank you to the Academy and from all of us, from all who made...
At the BAFTA closing ceremony, Loach steps up to the microphone. After courteously thanking the cast, crew and audience, he immediately lashes out at the capitalist system. He says, "Find those who feed the poor in the 5th richest country in the world. Neoliberals have impoverished all of Europe to become a wealthy minority. They want to lead us into catastrophe." Ken Loach continues, "This is a great scandal. The world is getting darker every day. In the battle between wealth and power, we stand with the vulnerable." After receiving the BAFTA for I, Daniel Blake, Ken Loach gives a scathing speech against the British government. He calls their cruel treatment of refugee children trying to enter the country a disgrace.
Refugee children that we promised to help, and that's a disgrace too. But films can do many things. They can entertain, they can terrify, they can take us to worlds of the imagination, they can make us laugh, and they can tell us something about the real world we live in.
May 1, 2018, Brussels University in Belgium announces that it will award its honorary doctorate of the year to Ken Loach, the filmmaker and international lawyer. The university prepares a grand ceremony in its amphitheater. Ken Loach, now 84 years old, is set to receive an honorary doctorate in law. Immediately, Belgium's Prime Minister calls the decision foolish. Charles Michel, himself a law graduate from the same university, claims Ken Loach is unworthy of a doctorate, accusing him of anti-Semitism. Once again, Ken Loach strikes back at the roots of racism. This time, he devotes his entire speech to the legal defense of Palestine. He says, "Mr. Michel, as a lawyer, I expect you to first study the illegal occupation of Palestine, the killing of civilians, and the obstruction of UN fact-finding missions, before accusing me of anti-Semitism. Mr. Michel, either you haven't studied law or you failed your exams."
Now, was the teaching bad? Or did he not pass his exams?
Imagine having to leave your house and then give it to someone else without any compensation. This is exactly what's happening in the occupied East Jerusalem neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah. After Israeli courts ruled that Palestinians have to leave their houses, Palestinian residents here live with the fear that the Israeli army could come at any moment and evict them. The neighborhood looks calm to you now, right? But that will change when the night falls.
May 7, 2021, Sheikh Jarrah, the last Friday of Ramadan. A foul stench rises from the neighborhood of Sheikh Jarrah. Palestinian protesters try to stop Zionist settlers from evicting 8 Palestinian families from their homes. Israeli police throughout the previous week have repeatedly sprayed a thick, disgusting substance known as skunk water to disperse demonstrators. Sheikh Jarrah, a small neighborhood in East Jerusalem, becomes the focal point of a new wave of violence.
It smells so bad. Now, as you can see, Israeli police using pressurized water. And inside of this pressurized water, there is a special chemical, and reportedly it was invented by Israeli firm. And it's called skunk water. It's so hard to describe the smell. They believe that it is very effective to disperse the crowd.
Israeli police also use their elite secret force to infiltrate the protest and arrest Palestinians. They are known as Mustaribin. While Palestinians in occupied East Jerusalem face police brutality to show solidarity with families under the threat of eviction.
In a clear violation of international law, an Israeli court orders the eviction of Palestinians from their own birthplace. Crowds gather in Jerusalem to stop the ruthless eviction, fasting under the scorching Palestinian sun, enduring the unbearable stench. Days later, the clashes erupt into full-scale war. Rockets are launched from Gaza toward the occupied territories, and hours later, Israeli warplanes brutally bombard Gaza. One by one, the bodies of women and children are pulled from the rubble. Once again, the world is left in shock by the Zionist massacre. In an interview, Ken Loach says, "I am humbled by the courage and resistance of the Palestinian people because the terror they live in is unimaginable. Unity is our first duty if we want to win." The 2024 Oscars, Jonathan Glazer, acclaimed British director, wins the Oscar for Best Feature Film for a movie about the Holocaust.
And the Oscar goes to The Zone of Interest.
In his acceptance speech, he addresses the slaughter of innocents by the Zionists. He says, "What's been happening since October 7 is a blatant example of fascist violence, something we haven't seen since World War II." Ken Loach calls Glazer's speech brave and says, "From now on, I will hold a deeper respect for Jonathan's courage." Unlike many of his contemporaries, Ken Loach was never captivated by the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. Unlike many European directors, he consistently demonstrated a deep commitment to family and traditional values in his work. For decades, he has made films for the poor, the homeless, and the working class. His political stance against discrimination and injustice within Britain's capitalist system, along with his outspoken criticism of the Zionist regime, have made him an avant-garde and revolutionary filmmaker. For years, Loach's critical works have been more appreciated across Europe than in the UK itself. Most of his films' funding and box office revenue comes from the European continent. Throughout all these years, whenever there was a platform and a microphone, he used his words in service of humanity to voice the cries of the oppressed. Brussels, Oxford, Cannes, or the Dolby Theatre in Los Angeles, Ken Loach walked through festivals one after another, collecting prestigious awards. His frequent presence at the Cannes Film Festival has earned him a historic record. In the past 40 years, 17 of his films have screened at Cannes, 11 of them in the main competition. That's a record. At the 2009 Berlin International Film Festival, he was awarded the honorary Golden Bear for a lifetime of artistic achievement. To date, Ken Loach has made 28 feature films. His most recent work, The Old Oak, premiered at the Cannes Film Festival last year and competed for the Palme d'Or. But the final scene of his cinematic life is not on the red carpet. It is in the streets. in support of the Palestinian cause in the heart of Britain. August 31st, 2024, a 90-year-old British man walking with a cane makes his way to Bath Street. Desperately, he speaks about Gaza. There is no peace. This is the final line of a veteran British artist. Ken Loach has realized that all his efforts for words like peace, ceasefire, and ending the killing, none of them are achieved without the cost of war. He believes that for the Palestinians, there is no path to freedom except to fight, even in a battle so tragically unequal.